Good morning, everyone. So my name is Shalame Campa Sabonga, and now I am going to discuss the Republic Act number 8371 and Presidential Decree number 603. So what is Republic Act number 8371? So Republic Act number 8371 or RA 8371 is also known as the Indigenous Peoples Rights Act of 1997. This law recognizes and promotes the rights of indigenous cultural communities and indigenous peoples in the Philippines. It protects their ancestral domains, self-governance, cultural integrity, and social justice. And what is Presidential Decree? So Presidential Decree number 603 is also known as the Child and Youth Welfare Code. This law, issued in 1974, establishes the rights and responsibilities of children and sets guidelines for their care, protection, and development. It covers aspects such as parental authority, child welfare services, juvenile justice. So, the objectives. So, at the end of this lesson, the students will be able to understand the rights and protections granted to indigenous peoples under Republic Act 8371 to learn about provisions of Presidential Decree 603 that safeguard children's welfare, including indigenous children. To identify solutions and recommendations for improving the education and welfare of indigenous children, to explore best practices in integrating indigenous knowledge and rights into child welfare programs. And now let me read the introduction. The Philippines has established legal frameworks to protect both the rights of indigenous peoples and the welfare of children through Republic Act number 8371 and Presidential Decree number 603. So these laws aim to ensure that indigenous children receive proper education, protection, and support while preserving their cultural identity. So, this report explores the key provisions, challenges, and recommendations for improving the implementation of these laws. So, the Philippines has laws to protect indigenous peoples and children. Republic Act number 8371, also known as the Indigenous Peoples Rights Act, it ensures that IPS can preserve their cultural and rights. Meanwhile, Presidential Decree number 603 or the Child and Youth Welfare Code focuses on the safety, education, and well-being of children. So this report looks at the main point of these laws, challenges facing them, and suggestions for making them more effective. Report 831, it recognizes and protects the rights of indigenous peoples, including their right to ancestral domains and self-governance and cultural preservation. So, Republic Act 8371 is a law that protects the rights of indigenous peoples in the Philippines. It ensures that they can live freely on their ancestral lands, preserve their culture, and make decisions about their communities. It also emphasizes the importance of education that respect their traditions and identity. So, first is the ancestral domains. So, indigenous peoples have the rights to their lands, which are essential to their identity and education. So, the indigenous communities have the right to own and live on their ancestral lands, which are essential for their way of life and education. And for the second is the cultural integrity. So the government must promote and safeguard indigenous traditions, language, and knowledge system. Their traditions, languages, and costumes must be protected and promoted. So the third is free, prior, and informed consent. So indigenous communities must be consulted before any project affecting their or including educational programs. So, the government, private companies, as community permission, make changes to their implementing programs. Number 4 is the right to education. Indigenous children education that respect their culture and traditions. Yet, the indigenous children receive education that their language and history. Must respect their culture, their rights, because everyone has a right in every ways. So Presidential Decree number 603, Child and Youth Welfare Code of 1974, Presidential Decree 603 provides a comprehensive framework for child protection and welfare. It is relevant provisions. So Presidential Decree number 603 is a law that ensures the protection, education, and welfare of all children in the Philippines. It provides rules to keep children safe from ensure that they receive proper education and support, especially those vulnerable as indigenous children. So, for the best way for them to be protected is first best interest of the child. So all decisions must prioritize the child's well-being, including education and cultural identity. So every decision made about the child must prioritize, of course, and their safety, education, and overall well-being. So we must prioritize also their education and their most especially their safety. Second is right to education. Every child has a right to education that supports their growth and development. So children have right to and receive education for their so is protection from abuse and the laws from exploitation and discrimination. So children protect from violence, exploitation, and discrimination. Of course, the is protection for vulnerable children. Indigenous children as part of marginalized group requires additional support. So children from this or marginalized communities should receive extra support to help them succeed in life. So the next is intersection and challenges. So despite strong legal frameworks, challenges remain in implementing Republic 8371 and PD 603 effectively. So even though Republic Act 8371 and PD 603 are designed to protect indigenous children and their rights, there are still many challenges in making these laws work effectively. So first is limited access to education. So many indigenous children live in remote areas with inadequate school facilities. So many indigenous children live in faraway areas where there are not enough schools or teachers. So, for example, ani is kanang mga bukid, kanang layo na kayo. So, second is cultural relevance in education. Standard curricula often fail to incorporate indigenous languages and traditions. So, the lessons taught in schools often do not include indigenous traditions, language, or history. So, in indigenous communities may suffer from insufficient and training. Indigenous schools do not have schools, classrooms, teachers. So, for fourth, conflict displacement. Conflicts and land disputes can disrupt indigenous children's education. So, some indigenous families are forced to leave their homes due to conflicts or land disputes. So, it makes them difficult for and also for the children to continue their education. For conclusion, Republic Act 8371 and Presidential Decree provides a foundation for protecting indigenous children's rights and welfare. However, their full implementation requires collaboration among the government, indigenous communities, and education sectors by ensuring culturally appropriate education and stronger child protection measures. The Philippines can support children in their age while supporting other people. So Republic Act 8371 and Presidential Decree 603 helps protect the rights and well-being of indigenous children in the Philippines. So however, making these laws work effectively needs teamwork between the government, indigenous communities, and schools by providing education that respect their culture and improving child protection. So the country can help indigenous children maintain their traditions while building a brighter future. So that's my report for today. Thank you for your cooperation and thank you for listening.